Some opening shot thoughts. When are those second installment property tax bills actually going to go out? They're supposed to be mailed in June, but gasp, we're now approaching October with no date in sight. This is that will affect every single body of government within its borders, including the city of Chicago, Chicago Public Schools, countless mosquito abatement districts, so on and so forth. So if the bills aren't mailed out, people don't pay their property taxes, and there's no revenue to operate government. Some of those governments are looking at short-term loans in anticipation of that revenue eventually coming in. But how could it be that one of the largest counties in the country, 6 million people live here, how could this county be so far behind? Well, the answer goes all the way back to 2015 when the county contracted with a politically connected company called Tyler Technologies to upgrade the system that interfaces with all the agencies to calculate and send out the bills. Long story short, the technology hasn't really worked properly, and nobody knows when it's going to be fixed. And everyone's had about 10 years to prepare for this. Tyler Technologies sent this statement several weeks ago when I asked what the holdup was. Quote, "We continue to fully support Cook County as they move forward with full system implementation." Now, we repeatedly asked Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle for an interview so we could question her about this deal, and we've not heard back. But all indications are it stinks to high heavens. Just who introduced this problematic company to Cook County officials? Well, according to Injustice Watch, it was former City Club President Jay Doherty. That's the Jay Doherty who has since been found guilty for his role in the ComEd bribery scandal. He is part of that ComEd 4. At the end of the day, we still don't have a date. Once those bills go out, property taxpayers then have a month to get them paid. But I don't think that's the end of the story for Cook County and Tyler Technologies. I would imagine the Inspector General will have a monumental task ahead of them to probe exactly what has gone wrong and who's culpable. In the meantime, cash-starved governments are scrambling to find a way to pay their bills. Tonight, granny flats, stadiums, affordable housing. Oh my. The latest on what passed and what didn't after today's marathon city council meeting. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu prepares to address the United Nations. We visit with the newly named Israeli Consul General to the Midwest on what to expect. And giving new meaning to the word sleeper, we preview Chicago's first ever bed race, taking place this weekend. Granny flats, stadiums, affordable housing, those are among the many issues tackled at a city council meeting that went on for hours and hours and hours. It seemed to never end. So for the latest on what just passed, we are joined by Alex Nitkin from the Better Government Association, also the Illinois Answers Project. He's a reporter that covers City Hall, and he's joining us from the press room where that vote just took place. So let's start with granny flats. This was a compromise to allow aldermen to opt in to allowing 1 to 3 granny flats per block per year. What happened?
Yeah, granny flats is a term for accessory dwelling units. It can be either a coach house in the backyard that you build next to your house, or just converting your basement into an apartment building. This is something that's been really popular in other cities around the country, and this has been dating back the idea to late in the Rahm Emanuel administration for years and years. And really, the crux of it and why it's been so controversial in the city council goes back to aldermanic prerogative, how much power each individual alderman would have to basically veto or allow any number of these new units in their own wards. And so essentially the compromise that was reached was to allow granny flats by right automatically in sort of 2 flat zoned or business and commercial districts. But if any alderman wants them to be allowed in a single family zone neighborhood, they would have to personally opt in their ward. And so they say that it sort of helps them target them to their own needs and what neighbors want. Of course, the end result is going to be this very dense patchwork of not just the geographies of where they're allowed, but to what degrees, because they're allowed to put different limitations on them as well. And so it's going to be a pretty dense sort of thicket for people to
So,
navigate of figuring out where they're allowed and under what conditions.
long story short, Alex, if a homeowner wants to convert their coach house or their attic, they better figure out what ward they're in and what their alder thinks about it. So this kind of preserves aldermanic prerogative here, this compromise, and it sailed through unanimously, it looks like. Let's talk about a new community benefits agreement for the folks that live around the Obama Presidential Center. What is this going to accomplish?
Yeah, it does a couple of things. This is really an extension of a similar ordinance that was passed in Woodlawn a couple of years ago, aimed at helping folks who are worried about gentrification or rising housing costs that's surrounding the Obama Center in Jackson Park. So this would create a property tax debt relief program. It's one of those things that doesn't identify a funding source, but says that's where it would help people who are dealing with higher property taxes. And it would, similar to the Woodlawn ordinance, set aside a couple of dozen city-owned lots and sort of chart out a plan for, we're going to have to build affordable housing, affordable apartments on these lots, as well as grants for things like, homeowner repair programs and things like that. What's interesting is that the version of this that passed for Woodlawn back in 2020, very little has really sprouted out from that. And so it was, brought by a lot of the same sorts of folks, and there were a lot of grants given out. But the question of is it actually spurring affordable development? It's something that we're going to have to see whether that happens in South Shore, because it hasn't really picked up yet in Woodlawn, which is, closer even to the site of the Obama Center.
Right, and there's some folks that are truly happy that the Obama Center is making property values go up. It's increasing business, increasing development, but it's tough to strike that balance. And then lastly, Alex, this one sailed through as expected, the new Chicago Fire Stadium zoning to allow that on the 78. And this will be built by private funds, the owner, Joe Mansueto, but some public funds could help roads, sidewalks, infrastructure, correct?
That's right, because of a new TIF district that was created way back in 2019 when we thought that some of this would get underway, basically allowing for funneling property taxes into a fund that can be used for public infrastructure around the new developments. And so Mansueto and the development team with the Chicago Fire and Related Midwest were able to come and say, we're not asking for any additional subsidies, but also they kind of had this other subsidy, at least for public works around, that was already sort of baked in. And so maybe now the hope is that they will finally start to get shovels in the ground and get some construction going there.
And just very quickly, does that mean the case is closed on a potential White Sox stadium on the site as well?
I mean, the case is never closed until the thing actually goes up. I mean, deals come and go even after city council approvals go through, but I would certainly not hold your breath for a White Sox stadium in that area anytime soon, especially if Jerry Reinsdorf keeps calling for public subsidies, which really don't seem like they're in the cards anytime soon.
Yeah, they had a beautiful proposal on that site, but then Mr. Reinsdorf, the chairman, went down to Springfield and said, guess who's going to pay for it? You guys, all of you guys, and that didn't fly, so here we are. All right, Alex Nitkin from City Hall, the press room there, the vaunted press room that hasn't been cleaned in about 60 years. We appreciate you joining us. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much for having me on, Paris.
Okay, you got it.